I think there is a code, which is surrender. Like Bashar, it's like follow your highest excitement. Well, that's a surrender. I'm going to surrender to this thing that's excitement. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make any money off this. I don't know if I'm going to be successful at this. I don't know if this is going to work out. That's not your concern, right? Your mission here is just to surrender. Yeah, just surrender to your excitement and then see what happens. If you do that over and over and over again, I think it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have a successful life.
David actually doesn't know. I wanted to be a surprise. So we're going to do an inner body technique exercise by Eckhart Tolle, and we're going to close our eyes and we're going to ask ourselves the question, how do I know my right hand still exists?
Nice. I don't know that meditation. I mean, I know meditations or presence practices like that, but that's a really powerful question. Like, how do you know that you have a hand? It immediately puts you into a kind of trance state because, which is where you want to be, outside of the mind.
I was in a very unpredictable, uncertain household. Anything I did after was to try to find control and safety. I made a decision and I said, I want to be the best, which fueled a complete ambition, partly maybe to get love, but a big part was also safety and control. Because when I'm powerful, I'm safety and control and I'll be loved. Now, along the way, because of the bullying and other things, the control and safety that I looked for manifested in OCD, in rituals. I literally created rituals connected to the law of attraction that I thought is going to keep me safe. Paradox is I became fearful of thoughts. So me understanding that this is control and safety and me moving forward anyway in the uncertainty is actually what healed me.
Somebody said to me at one point when I was in some resistance, they said, listen, God's plan for you is much more expansive and interesting and exciting than whatever plan that you have for yourself.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I have a very special guest today, and people always say, oh, it's special, it's special, it's special. No, this one is special to my heart. It's David Sutcliffe. He's a somatic practitioner, used to be a famous actor, has an amazing journey in his life, has a lot to tell, a lot of experience. But the most important thing, to be honest, is he has a good heart. And I like to have people on my podcast who care about the well-being of other people because they are going to have good intentions and they are going to try to help as much as possible. David actually doesn't know. I wanted to be a surprise. So David doesn't know what we're going to do in a moment. I just want to say, hi, David. Hope you're doing great. Thank you for coming to my podcast.
Happy to be on, Star. Thank you for that warm introduction.
All right. So we're going to do an inner body technique exercise by Eckhart Tolle. And please, everyone, follow along. David maybe already knows it, but I'm just going to guide us through it just for us to be in the present moment. The reason why we're doing this is because the mind can attach to things. And when we are overwhelmed in our head, you build a lot of resistance. And that resistance keeps you from that intelligence that you have in your body, where you are connected to channels, where you are connected to inspirations, and especially if you're creative at anything that you want to be successful, connecting to your inner body, to the wisdom of the world, to life, because we only have this present moment, is so important. Now your mind will maybe be like, no, I want emotional entertainment right away. I want intellectual entertainment to fulfill myself right away. That's just your ego who wants more thinking to create more of an identity. But I want to connect us to our present moment intelligence. So we're going to start. Just everybody have your hands hanging and not touch anything. And we're going to close our eyes and we're going to ask ourselves the question, how do I know my right hand still exists? And we bring all our consciousness in our right hand. And see if we can actually, without looking at the right hand, sense it. Maybe there's a tingling in it. Maybe there's an energy in it. But really bring all your consciousness into it. Your mind might try to distract you, and you keep bringing more consciousness into the hand and ask yourself, how do I know I have a right hand? And then we can add the left hand at the same time. Can you sense both hands at the same time? And as soon as you can feel both hands at the same time, can you actually feel both hands and both feet? You have to really use your consciousness, bring it inside of your body in those areas. How do you know you have feet and hands without looking at them? And then you can add more body parts. Can you add your legs and your hands? Maybe your energy automatically transfers into your whole body, into your chest. Can you sense the energy in your entire body? And a good question to ask yourself is, how do I know I'm alive? Where do I sense that aliveness? A good pointer is also I am. Where's the feeling of I am? Where's the feeling of I in your body? It's a feeling. It's not a visual. It's not a picture. It's a sensation. Look for that and enjoy it. And now, instead of just observing it, can you merge with it? Can you see through it? Can you be it? And now I invite you guys to, when you open your eyes, to keep your power in you, which means to keep your awareness with you while being in the present moment and while watching the podcast. And David and I are going to stay grounded in ourselves. A part of our awareness stays with ourselves in our body, in that awareness, while we are in the present moment. This is a practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I just want to give, it's like you keep your power in you. You don't give it outside to the world. You do give it outside to the world, but part of it, you keep part of the power, the awareness in you. And I used to live in Toronto with a woman. Was an opera singer. And I asked her, hey, how am I going to be good at auditions? How am I going to be good at acting auditions? Do you have any tips? And she said, when you go into the room, don't give your power away. Don't be like, oh, no, yeah, give me okay, here's what I get. Be like, no, I don't give my energy away. I don't give my power away. I keep my power with me. And I express myself. I do my monologue or whatever it is. And I like this sense of you keep your energy with you. And this is also how you're not losing yourself in relationships or at work with your job or anything. So yeah, I just wanted to guide us through this to ground us. Very unconventional, probably for a podcast, but that's good. We're doing new things, you know?
Yeah, that was great. I love that.
Nice.
I don't know that meditation. I mean, I know meditations or presence practices like that, but that's a really powerful question. Like, how do you know that you have a hand? It immediately puts you into a kind of trance state because, which is where you want to be, outside of the mind.
Yeah, you bring your consciousness into your mind, and Eckhart Tolle talks about then that your brain doesn't have enough consciousness then anymore. The thoughts doesn't have any consciousness anymore to feed them so much, and you come to your true self.
Right.
So that's why I really enjoy it so much. Yeah, let's go into some topics if you're ready, David.
I'm ready.
All right. So the first topic that I've been really excited recently about is enjoying the present moment, enjoying the actions that are in front of us instead of always trying to, result, give me this, give me that. And I fell into this weeks ago, months ago, where it's like, I need to be better. I need to be on the level of Chris Williamson or Psychax or all those creators. I need to make this happen. I need to understand the algorithm. I need to be more successful. And I didn't even realize how much stress I created with that. But then going back more into the present moment practice, listening to the power of now again, and trying to enjoy the present moment, which is kind of all we have. What do you, the practice of, I guess, yeah, the art of enjoying the present moment, what do you think is the value of that?
It's a great question. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think we all struggle with that, putting a lot of pressure on ourselves to be more, to do better, comparing ourselves to other people, which pulls us out of the present moment. And we're giving away our power there, of course, as well. So, yeah, I do everything I can to try to stay as present as I can. And it simply is just, what is that? It's just being right where you are. So if I have to do some dishes that I don't really want to do, or I feel like it's a waste of time, it's like I try to just lock in on the dishes and just like actually enjoy the process, like be with the dishes, be with the meal that I'm eating, especially when it's like some kind of technical task that I have to do, like my taxes. Like I try to, can I find the pleasure in it? Because if I'm in resistance to it, if I'm judging it, then I'm suffering. I mean, it's just as simple as that. Whatever you resist, you suffer. And so my mantra is just in those situations, just yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. And yes is acceptance, and thank you is gratitude. And it kind of shifts your consciousness right away. Now, the thing is, you got to catch it because those thoughts can be persistent, and they're like a habit. I mean, this, and we get lost in them. And so it's that, and then we indulge in our resentments and indulge in being a victim, and we take some kind of negative pleasure in that. It's a very seductive quality. But the way out of all suffering is just to come into the present moment. And so having practices that bring you into the present moment and catching the awareness when you're not. And then, for me, if I'm struggling, like in my mind, I can't get out of my head, I can't stop thinking about something, I just go for a walk. And the walk will solve the problem every time. As soon as my body is moving through space, because what are negative thoughts, all that you were describing, really underneath it, it's just fear of not being enough, fear of being unlovable, fear of being excluded, on whatever our issues are. But underneath all of our anxiety, all of our worry is really just fear. And when you're walking forward through space, what they've determined is that it shrinks the fear response in your brain, because of course, if you're in a state of fear and you're moving forward, the body is telling the brain that there's nothing to be afraid of, because if you're afraid, you wouldn't be moving forward. So, it makes perfect sense, which is why Throughout history, every wise man is always saying that they do their best thinking on a walk, or they make sure that they walk an hour a day. People want to get their 10,000 steps for their physical health, but I think it's really more about our mental health. And so I try to walk as much as I can. I know that sounds simple, and my clients that I have, I encourage them to walk, and not walk listening to a podcast or an audio book or music, like to just walk and be with yourself. And then, you can develop a practice of noticing. I know when I was an actor, one of the exercises we did, I don't know if you ever did this one, the Meisner exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So you're standing across from somebody and you just say like the first thing you notice. And so for me, I notice you have red on your headphones, red on your headphones. And then, in the Meisner exercise, you would repeat it back, red on your headphones.
Yeah.
And then we just go like that. And what happens if you just stay in it, like something develops. And the intention of the practice is to keep you present, to keep you watching. And so that's one of the things that I always do, when I'm in some kind of situation that I might be worried about my performance or what people are going to think of me, whether I was an actor, I'm about to do a workshop, or I'm about to go live on a podcast, whatever it might be. I try to actually focus on like the physical reality. So I'm looking at your beard, or, the red in the headphone, or I'm looking at the whiteboard in the back and seeing what you have. And that immediately pulls me into the present moment and gets me out of my head. And, again, as an actor, it's like, you can't be in a scene unless you're actually listening to the other person. You have to forget about your lines. You have to dissolve into it. And it's not an easy thing to do because you don't want to forget your lines. And hopefully you know them enough that they're just going to, be there. But you want to get to that place where you can just trust that they're going to come. So you're not thinking about what your next line is. And the way to stay out of your head is just to listen to the person, just to really listen to what the other person is saying. So I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but those are some of the things that I do consistently to try to bring myself into the present moment. And then, what you're implying is in the present moment, there is a lot of pleasure there. There's just something about being here now that feels good. Maybe you're not filled with joy but there's something that's just easeful there. And it's a little bit scary for people sometimes because they have an image that if they're not thinking, they don't have, if you're so habitually worrying, that becomes a pattern. And then when you do something different, if you let go of your mind, it's kind of uncomfortable because you're not used to it. And it can feel a little disorienting, and you want to, there's nothing to hold on to in the same way that you're used to holding on to your thoughts. And, but that, again, it's a practice. It's just like, can I stay in the pocket of this present moment where there's, I don't know what's going to happen next by definition. I'm not trying to control what's going to happen next. I'm open to receiving whatever is going to emerge from within the other person or from life, or whatever's going to emerge in me. Because often things emerge in us that, we don't know where they come from, impulses or desires or attractions, and can we just be with all of it? Can we create a container for all of our feelings and have the awareness to hold it all without getting into reactivity, without letting the mind come in and make meaning of it or judge it in some way, which pulls us out of presence. As soon as you're judging something, you've separated from it, and you can't be with it the same way. Now, these are not easy things to do if you've never done that before, but through, I've been doing this all my life. And but I have to practice it like every day, whether it's through my journal or meditation or going for walks or just or connecting to the breath. That's a big, I'm breathing. Anytime I feel myself lost in thought, or I'm, Just take a deep breath, focus on the breath, a couple of breaths, and that brings me back to the moment. So I'm with you, man. The present moment is the thing.
And what I want everybody to know is that our superpower is our focus, because you can jump with your focus on the train of all the patterns, all the thoughts, and you strengthen that and you warp your reality. Your entire reality of the world will literally be warped based on your identity, your belief system, and then you act through that. Or we can use our focus, like we did earlier in the exercise or with the Meissner technique, to come to the present moment by either going in the body, going to the breath, accepting the moment, seeing our thoughts just as thoughts. And then something emerges, which is our true self. Yeah.
You know, that's why I really appreciate all the training that I had as an actor. I mean, it really prepared me for the career that I have now as basically as a, working as a psychotherapist. I mean, I'm not officially a psychotherapist, but that's what I do. I'm a somatic practitioner trained in core energetics, which is a somatic psychotherapy. But, you have to be present with people.
Yeah.
And you have to be, have to listen and be able to not get in your head, because that's how, I think that's how we heal.
True.
Is we have to come present, but if we don't know how to come present, we need other people to be present so that we can come present. Like, it gives us permission. And most of us, we haven't had that experience. A lot of children don't have an experience of their parents actually being present with them, which is very disorienting because children are naturally present. And then if their parents aren't present or the world isn't present,
that's what makes them neurotic.
Yeah, that's what makes them neurotic. They have to kind of abandon that presence and conform to this mask or this adaptation. And then they think that that's what reality actually is. And so, the healing process is really about, at least from my perspective, is like, how can I be as present as I can with this person? And the more present I am, the more space that it creates. And the more space it creates, the more of their real self can begin to come through. And then the more of their real self that begins to come through, the more they can feel themselves, and all these repressed or disowned parts of themselves start to emerge, feelings, thoughts, fears, sadness, anger, whatever it may be, that it comes up to be healed and processed. But it can only happen in the space of awareness, loving awareness and presence.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, because as a practitioner, it's not only the tools that we're giving, it's our presence that heals people. Eckhart Tolle actually told the story that the first time he became really present after years, a woman came to him and she was so neurotic. She was sued, I think, or something, and she came into his house and she was so identified with those thoughts, and she was screaming and yelling and going around, "Can you not see what they're doing to me? Can you not see what they're doing to me?" And Eckhart was just present. He was not talking. He was not speaking. He was completely neutral. And at some point, after 5 minutes, she's she looks around as she's woken up, and she runs out the house, right? Runs out the house. Comes back a day later and goes to Eckhart, "What did you do to me? What did you do to me?" And I think what I forgot to say when she left, she was like, "This all really doesn't matter." She was the last thing she said, and she went out. And when she come back, she was like, "What did you do to me? What did you do to me?" And then she said, and he didn't even say anything yet. He hasn't spoken a fucking word. So she says, "You a healer," right? And she left. And from that point, she brought people. She brought people to him, right? And he was just accepting. He was surrendering. And in the beginning practices, he wasn't even teaching. He was just sitting and listening to them and being in the present moment. And he said, he even was really honest. He said, maybe not 100%, but 90% of the people that came to me had positive effects from me just being present. I don't even know if he said anything, but that present moment. And when I'm coaching people always ask me, because I've been coaching for 5 years, people ask me, how are you dealing with all the stories and the problems of the people, and doesn't it pull you down? And what I've been practicing is just almost being like a neutral vessel where things flow through. It doesn't even really, I have empathy, and I'm saying sorry that happened a lot, and it's like maybe but I stay open. I don't close up. So
you don't get involved in it.
Exactly. I don't get involved in it. I stay in the present moment. And I think a bad coach is like, they jump, oh, really? That, but they're feeding it with that. They're feeding their ego with that. Or therapists, the ex-boyfriend's so mean and this and this. Yeah, we can, like, in a neutral, it's not the words, it's in a neutral tone. We can like give clarity. Hey, this is not what's supposed to happen, but it's that being in the present moment. And I think part of it is like, that's healing people, and they don't even know, and they need that. That's why a good therapist, and that's why a therapist, even like sometimes I'm very critical of like the original therapy, because I think talk therapy can also be harmful. But I like about that they get taught to be non-judgmental, so to say. But I think a better practice would be saying, like, I'm being mindful, I'm being present. And that's what healing. I just want to also mention to the audience, David and me had a agreement even on the last podcast that we are not going to do a conventional podcast where it's like, oh, the role, you have to be the guest, and I have to be this, and you have to be this, and you have to be this. This is also a flowing of, like, it's a flowing of conversation. It's not really, it's as much his podcast as it's my podcast. So we also take the labels out of that, and we have more of something that we enjoy compared to being like, oh, I have to stay in this role now, I just have to do this. No, David and I are in the present moment, and whatever is our excitement, whatever we think is valuable, we bring in, and we bring the inspiration, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that. Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think the problem, because I know that you're critical of therapy and therapists, and deservedly so. I mean, the problem is a lot of, and I train therapists now, and I keep saying, like, you don't try to fix anybody, and don't feel like you have to do something. Because as soon as your mind starts going to, like, I've got to say the right thing, I've got to have the perfect answer, I've got to comfort this person, now you're not present, and you're in your own shit. It's about you. You've just made it about you.
Exactly.
And so it's like, yeah, how do you just sit with somebody and listen and affirm? You can affirm, I always say, like, you can affirm somebody's feelings without agreeing with the story. So, I'm not going to affirm someone's victimhood, but I am going to affirm that they got hurt, or they felt angry, or that it was painful. In part, what you're trying to do also is you're trying to create trust, and you're trying to create some connection. So people need to be felt in a genuine way. But there is a way to do that without enabling them, or as I said, getting involved with their story. And it really is just that space of understanding, of compassion, of presence. But also you have to stay kind of firm inside yourself, because usually what people are avoiding feeling when they're stuck in victim consciousness, when they're blaming, when they're judging, when they're avoiding, is pain. They don't want to feel their pain. They got hurt, something happened. Maybe it's about the thing that happened to them with their boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whatever, a friend. And maybe that's connected to something that happened to them in their childhood. And so, going back to this theme of presence, part of the reason that they can't get present is because they're unwilling to feel their pain. And if they would be willing to feel the pain, then they'd come more present.
Because they're trying to distract themselves from the pain, with the identity, with the thoughts, with judging people, right?
Yeah. So whenever you're stuck in a victim mentality, or you're blaming or judging, which we all do from time to time, you want to catch yourself. And, my framework is always when I feel the seduction of blame and judgment, it's usually in my relationship, right? It gets tense sometimes. I have a fight with my wife and I want to blame her. If only she was different, this wouldn't have happened. Why did she say that? Why did she do that? And, I might even be right. I could be right about my argument, but it doesn't really matter. It's like I'm having a reaction to it, and that reaction belongs to me, and I'm defending something and I'm judging. And the truth is, because at the deepest level of presence, beyond the story, there's something that I don't want to feel. There's something I'm afraid to feel. And the place where I'm afraid to feel it, I can't be present. And so that's also what I'm thinking about. And so when I say like you have to be firm, it's like you have to be firm to hold that space for somebody to like feel their pain. You have to be, it's a kind of a contradiction. You have to be soft and firm at the same time. You have to be compassionate, but you have to be kind of like there, because, at least the way that I think about it, the way that I do therapy, there's something that's also surgical about it. And so you have to know when to go in and when to say the thing or touch the thing at exactly the right moment. That's not invasive, that they can feel the good intention of it. That's going to allow them for that thing to crack. And it's not going to be a pleasant moment for them. It's not pleasant. It's not pleasant in the moment, but it's actually extremely pleasant afterward because something's been released. But there's going to be a lot of resistance to it. And so, you're always in that dance. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes you can go session after session after session, and they're really not ready to hear it, right? You're just kind of softening them up and you're listening. And you told that story about Eckhart Tolle. I had a friend that I lived with for a couple of years, and he was a great guy, but every once in a while he would, go on a rant. And he was in a conflict with this other person very often that he was working with, and he would start complaining about him. And I could see that he was worked up, and I could see that he was underneath it. He was just hurt. But he was creating a story. He did this and I don't understand. And he's like ripping me off and blah, 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 blah. And I would just sit there and I would just like nod and look at him, and I wouldn't say anything. And finally one night he just kind of like snapped out of it, kind of like the story that you told. And then after that, whenever he saw me just kind of nodding and listening, he just was like, okay. Cause because I'm present with it. I'm not affirming his story. I'm just with him. I'm like, okay. But I'm also in my consciousness holding the deeper level of truth, which is you got hurt. Like I'm in the truth. I know what happened. Like you got hurt. And if I can hold that in my consciousness and stay present and not get involved, eventually he's going to come around. Eventually, and that's the power of presence. Like really is. Sometimes you have to tolerate a lot. You have to tolerate a lot of your own stuff because it's not always pleasant to listen to somebody complain. It can activate you, but you can learn to tolerate more and more of the uncomfortable feelings inside yourself, and then it gets easier to tolerate other people's nonsense because it's never going away. The world is, just look out at the world. You can go on Twitter and like 10 minutes later, you can be completely fucking activated by the madness that you see.
Yeah.
And all the stuff that's going on in the world. And you can, go into that and create a whole story that the world's going to hell and go to despair. But, it doesn't really serve anything. It doesn't help.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, it just doesn't help. That's all.
Yeah. There's a place in helping people with staying in the present moment. And I love what you said. There's a place, which I do exactly the same, to directing them. And what I like to do is the power of questions. And you can apply that power of questions to yourself and to others. Now, sometimes I joke around with my clients. I'm like, I'm like a lawyer. I'm doing really like leading questions. Like I'm like, because I'm leading them in a certain direction. So in the courtroom, it'd be like, hey, that's a leading question, but I'm leading them in the direction of positivity. Because you can ask questions that are useful to you and are leading to a supportive life, or you can ask questions that just support the ego. So question like, why does this always happen to me? Why is this always why is this person so mean? Why is this? Or you can ask questions, how can I make this more fun? How can I make this action more fun? How can I make this more useful? How can I make myself better? How can I grow my life more? How can I grow this action more? I teach this a lot because I teach people also creating on social media, because I believe creating on social media is one of the best mental health exercises there are, because you're taking up space. You're taking your inner child in expressing yourself and finding yourself along the way on your journey and expressing yourself on social media, but it's in relationship with other people. So, which means there's judgment, the fear of judgment coming up. And then you have either the power of question of, are they judging me? Should I make makeup on? Am I looking good enough? Is my voice weird? Am I stumbling? Or you can be in the video, hey, how can I communicate better? How can I make this more useful? How can I bring more value? It's literally the power of question is leading your focus in the direction of something useful, which is training your brain that you want to do more of that, because your brain is like an algorithm. It's literally like the TikTok algorithm. The more watch time you give an area, the more the brain will give you for that. And I love what you said earlier, because I always teach this my clients. You said something about moving forward is showing yourself that everything is okay. And this is what I teach all the time. It's like you're showing your little child by doing the thing anyway over a period of time. You're showing your brain over a period of time by doing the action that you anyway, even though there's anxiety and even though there's thoughts of not being good enough, even though there's thoughts of not being ready yet, that it's okay. And over time, your little child, your brain gets used to it. But if you avoid doing it, if you avoid the action, your little child's like, what? I'm a little child and I'm scared of it? But you're the adult and you even scared of it? This must be even scarier. And you freak the little child out more. And that's why I teach, you have to be the adult. Take that little child and act the role of the adult and take that little child in the situation. But most people are identifying with the little child, AKA the emotions, the thoughts. No, I cannot do this. And then they are little children, hurt, trauma little children running through the world. When we move forward, take the child by the hand, moving forward, we show over time that it's okay. If we spend that time outside of the head, because if you still spend time inside of your head, oh no, yeah, you're still feeding the pattern. So spending time outside of your head and moving forward is important.
Yes, that's why it's so important. If you're coaching people or you're a therapist, whatever you're doing, you have to go through the stage where you're, as I said, you're affirming what they feel. Like, I understand. That makes sense to me. I can understand why you'd react that way. I can understand why you'd feel that way. And at a certain point, the only way you're going to change is through new action. It's just the only way it is. You have to do something different. You have to do something new. And whatever that is going to scare you. So I have my clients. I mean, I actually use that image as well. It's like I do this meditation sometimes with my clients, and it's like, you know, you go down the stairs in the basement, then you open a door and you go down. There's another set of stairs and you go down and down and down. And then you find your scared little child sitting in a room who thinks he's in prison, but he's not. He's actually free. He can walk out any time. So your task as the adult is to convince him that it's okay to come out of the basement, out of their fear. And that may take some time.
It puts you in a position of power, though.
What's that?
It puts you in a position of power, that image, that visualization. Because you put yourself in the position of the adult, right? and you take that little child instead of being identified with the little child.
That's right. That's exactly right. You're identifying with the higher self, the adult version of you, not the scared little child.
Yeah.
And the child probably has a lot of good reasons to be scared. So you have to be understanding of their situation. It's why those videos, where you see a dog that's like been living behind some garbage dump, and then they find it and they try to rescue it, but the dog's like, "Rawr."
Yeah.
And they come back the next day and they give it a little food, and the dog tries to bite them, and they come back the next day, and then over time they build trust, and then eventually they are able to make contact with the dog and put a leash on it and bring it back, and they give it a bath, and then a month or 2 months later the dog's like happy and free. And whenever we see those videos, we're touched by them. They make me tear up, and because that's the exact process we have to go through with our own inner child, and sometimes we have to be patient with our inner child. But as you said, not to identify with that part of ourselves, with that fear.
That's why we cannot. The trauma patterns come up. We cannot identify with them. We cannot take anxiety for, that's our intuition, or the feeling of not feeling like going to the gym, or the feeling of not feeling like doing your business, or the feeling of not feeling like creating a project, to say, oh no, that's why we shouldn't create it. I like to differentiate between a feeling of excitement and emotions. Like, what excitement is the direction we want to go in, like a certain project. And then along the way, emotions come up, but we don't make those emotions our guide. We accept them, we integrate them. It's the formula of Bashar. It's follow your excitement with no insistence on the outcome. And when we go in the direction of that excitement, along the way, anxiety and thoughts of not being good enough. I was bullied in school for 7 years. 7 years of abuse, emotionally, physically, was in there. And it brings, even in the current reality and years beforehand, emotions up or thoughts up. And if I react to them, I just feed that pattern. But if I move forward anyway with the valued actions, then I show my little child, like you said, that I'm okay. And I realized, because also in my very young years, I was in a very unpredictable, uncertain household.
Mm-hmm.
And so many probably can relate to this. Anything I did after was to try to find control and safety, which means actually at first, when I didn't get the love from the people I needed the love from, I made a decision and I said, I want to be the best. I want to be the best at playing soccer, playing basketball, being a content creator, the best at anything, complete ambition, which fueled a complete ambition. Partly maybe to get love, but a big part was also safety and control. Because when I'm powerful, I'm safety and control, and I'll be loved. Now, along the way, because of the bullying and other things, the control and safety that I looked for manifested in OCD, in rituals. I literally created rituals connected to the law of attraction that I thought is going to keep me safe. Paradox is, I became fearful of thoughts. So me understanding that this is control and safety, and me moving forward anyway in the uncertainty, is actually what healed me. Like being okay with the emotion, the unsafety, being okay with the emotion and taking myself moving forward. Now, I was blessed that the, so to say, dysfunctional pattern I had actually gave me a fucking crazy fuel to move forward, go get scholarships from theater companies, go make crazy social media videos, because at some point I was so abandoned. The first second I was like, crying a bit. No one was coming. And if you understand, no one is coming. At some point, I was like, oh, okay, no one is coming. So I have to do it for myself.
Right.
I have to do it, which is actually a huge path of power that if people with victim mindset would actually understand, no one's coming for you. No one's going to buy you that Lamborghini tomorrow. No one's going to like get you better at your body, your relationships. And I had that early on when I was completely abandoned by my family, when I was by myself. And some people say, oh, but that's trauma. That's trauma. You can name it whatever you want to name it. It actually helped me to become independent and move forward. And also not care about other opinions because there was no one there. No one cared about me. So why would I care about those opinions? So that's how it helped me in moving forward, because I was with my back against the wall. If you don't have anything to lose, oh, I still want to have a better life. I'm going to move forward. So there's even traumatic things that we can use and help us, because when we can use it to move forward, it will have a positive effect because we at least show ourselves we can manage in those situations. And then along the way, we can look at, hey, maybe I don't have to run on the engine of this desperate need for success anymore. Maybe I can just be okay with those patterns and run on the engine what I really want to follow, which is my excitement, my joy, giving love to myself, giving love to other people that are my loved ones. What are your thoughts about that?
I agree with you, and I relate. There's always a gift in the defense. There's always a gift in the adaptation. Whatever adaptation, we have to choose. And I call it the defense. And we all have to defend ourselves against the pain of life, especially when we're children, when we're young and helpless and vulnerable. And so we develop different patterns to keep ourselves safe, exactly as you said. And then we become identified with those patterns, and we take those patterns out in the world, and then we recreate unconsciously the very circumstances of our childhood. And we stay in that loop over and over until we hopefully realize it and then do something or take some action or get some help to break out of it. But I very much relate to you, because I had that feeling too at a certain age. Like, okay, my dad's not around. My mom is overwhelmed. She was there and she was loving, but she wasn't really going to take care of me. That's how it felt. Didn't feel safe. So it really felt like I'm on my own. And it created a deep sense of self-reliance. And I got a lot of affirmation, because you never had to tell me to do my homework. I was always on time for practice. I worked hard. I didn't need anybody's help. And that worked for me for a long time, until actually fairly recently. I mean, I knew that I had some issues around it, but very recently, as like things started to expand for me, I couldn't do it all on my own. I needed help, and I was burning myself out. But I was too afraid to ask for help, because I'd made a decision that I don't need help, or I'm not going to ask for help, or actually needing help is humiliating. It's shameful, because I was so identified with being self-reliant. So that's the can be, for me, was the shadow of it. This refusal to ask for what I need or to ask for help, because it was unbearably vulnerable. And I judged it as weak. And I had to reframe it in my head. It's like, no, I need to be able to ask for help. And it's a demonstration of strength. It's self-affirming. I love myself enough to know that I need help right now, and I'm willing to ask for it. And when you're willing to ask for help in a genuine and vulnerable way, you will get it every time. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not from the person you want it from, but you will get it. And that's what I had to learn. I had to learn it through my relationship, and I had to learn it through my business. And it's an edge for me. And I had to give up some aspect of my identity because it's scary to have to rely on other people, because they might let you down.
Yeah.
They might betray you. And so I was protected against that for all of my life, sort of separate. And I just realized I don't want to live like that anymore. I can't live like that anymore. I
Yeah.
had mastered being alone. I mean, I was lone wolf for a long time, and people would be like, "Oh my God, you can live alone, or you can go out into the woods and by yourself for like a week and just stay out there." I could never do that. How do you do that? And I was like, it's easy. For me, it's nothing. But the harder thing for me was to actually be around other people and rely on them. And so that became my edge, and that became my work. And that's really what's been going on for me for the last, for a long time, but really that's been my intense work for the last couple of years, because, my relationship, it just doesn't work. Like I can't be separate, and I do need things from her. And I have emotional needs as well that I have to be willing to ask for. And then in my business, I can't do it all on my own. I used to be able to edit all my own video. I used to enjoy it, right? But as you get older, I just have no interest in that, in the minutia of the tasks. I don't have the bandwidth for it. I have to only be focused on only what I can do, and everything else I have to outsource. And that's been hard for me because I don't trust. Oh, they're not going to do it right. They're not going to do it the way that I like to do it. And so it's not going to turn out, and it's going to be bad, and all of this nonsense. And so, yeah, there's always in our defense, in our adaptation, in the decision that we had to make as children. And we all make different decisions based on the circumstances of our childhood and based on our own individual essence, right? The defense will use our essence, use our own gifts in service of the defense. So there's always something good in it, and there's always a shadow to it. And that for me is really what, transformational work is about. It's like confronting the shadow, the disowned part, the place where we judge ourselves, or we don't allow ourselves to exist, the shame, because that's really what it was about underneath it. I talked about, feeling humiliated, having to ask for help. But really, what is that? It's shame. Shame, it's like that I need, shame that I'm weak. And that was a decision that I made as a very young child, that it's shameful to ask for what I need. And it was a distortion, and it caused me a lot of pain and suffering.
Yeah, you and me are very similar in that. It's easy for me to be alone. There's another thing that you said. You didn't say it exactly like that, but I think you also have the same thing. I don't ever need it to be motivated. And I think you didn't ever need to be motivated. No. But when I look at a lot of people out there, so many people ask for that. Like hey, I need motivation. I need someone to motivate me. But I think when you come to the place of no one's coming for you, you can either go the route of being a victim forever and getting love for your victimhood from people. But if even those people are not coming to give you love for the victimhood, I guess you might as well go in the direction of, I got to do it for myself because no one else is going to do it. And I know my life the best. So I know what's best for me. And I can so relate to, other people are going to disappoint me in the editing or other things that I'm trying to delegate because they are not going to put the same heart in it. And I've been disappointed by so many people who do work half-ass. Yeah. And it makes me even more be like, no, fuck that. Like, I just, as much as I can, I do it myself. So I really understand that. But the not need to motivation, I think it's very rare. And those people are the ones who succeed because they're self-reliant. And I don't know if you can teach that. There's a funny thing that I observed. Two people say the exact same thing. We want to be famous content creators. We want to be famous on social media. We want to be successful on social media. I gave them the same advice. You have to make 500 videos in the next 6 months, let's say, or 1,000 videos in the next year. One of them is doing it every day, even if they fuck up, they mess up, they think it's not that good enough, but they continue. The other person said exactly the same fucking words. I want it as much as the other person. But they find excuses. Oh, I didn't start this week. Maybe next week, or I only made one video, while the other person makes 3 videos a day. So in my eyes, you cannot listen to their words. You have to watch their actions and know they don't want it the same. Because if they wanted it the same,
maybe they don't want it at all. It's just an image that they want it. You know,
Yeah.
the question that I ask people when they say, I want to do this, the question I ask is why? Why do you want that? I want to be a social media influencer. I want to be a star on YouTube. Why? And they better have a good answer for why, and it better be integrated, right? Like there has to be, it can be like, listen, there's a neurotic part pushing us all the time. You can't escape that. The ego is always present, right? But there also has to be a purity in the intention underneath it. Like when I became an actor, there was a part of me that was doing it because I wanted to be seen. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to be famous, right? Like that was a real thing. And I didn't really understand it at the time. I mean, we all want that to some degree, but it was really about like wanting to please my mother and please my father. And if I can be successful in that realm, then, well, one, I'm going to have power and I'm going to feel safe and I'm going to have status. I'm going to attract women, but also my parents they'll love me finally in the way that I want. And, you know, of course that didn't happen. You know, I made it as an actor and my internal experience was exactly the same. I mean, my ego was gratified, but nothing really changed internally. And that's when I went on this quest. But what was also true is I had a tremendous passion for it. Like I was into it, you know? And so it wasn't just a neurotic impulse. It was an expression of myself and my creativity. And so I had that going for me. And I think that's why I was successful. And I could see when I got to Hollywood, the people who were doing it only from the neurotic impulse, right? Who weren't interested in the craft as much, or didn't have a passion, or didn't have it, like they weren't artistic, you know, that they never made it. And then when I finally made it, I saw all the people around me were incredible. Even the people that you see on TV that you think are just beautiful and they suck, they're not actually that good of an actor. When you actually meet them, they got something going on. Like I didn't meet anybody in Hollywood that was successful or reasonably successful that didn't have something going on. Like there's some part of themselves that was solid. Maybe other parts of themselves were a little crazy. I mean, most actors are a little bit crazy, but there was some driving force. And so, you know, when I'm listening to people and they're telling me what they want, it's like, it's very important that they have to know why. The conscious and unconscious reasons, because if you want it for the wrong reasons, it's just going to end in sabotage and disaster. And so my intuition with those two people, and I have a friend like that every year, they're like, this year I'm going to like start doing social media. I was like, great, you're going to be great on social media. You're amazing. Like, go for it. Like, you have a lot to say and a lot to give. You look great. Like you're going to win. All you have to do is put in the effort consistently. And they never would. And then they'd kind of judge themselves and complain about it. And finally, after a couple of years, I said, are you sure that you want to do that? Because you keep saying you want to do it and then you don't do it. I wonder if you don't actually want to do it. And maybe it's okay that you don't want to do it. You know, like, where do you have this idea? Where's that idea coming from? You know, because you see it in the culture and you get excited and, you know, and I think she finally reconciled to that. Yeah, I don't want to do it, or I don't want to have to do the things that it takes to be successful. I don't want to do that. And that's fine. It's okay. Like, do the thing that you want to do, but don't measure yourself against other people and what they're doing. And that's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to do because it's monkey see, monkey do. I mean, I'm like that. I compare myself to people all the time. I mean, I'm, you know, I wouldn't say I'm prolific on social media, but I put a lot of stuff out. And then I'm watching other videos. I'm watching you. And I'm like, Jesus, this is amazing how he's doing it. And it's like, why am I not doing it that way? I should do it this way. I could make mine better. And I'm always, you know, that story is always in my head. And then I just catch myself. I'm like, no, just do your thing your way. your expression, stay consistent, be disciplined, and it'll all take care of itself. Because it has to be, it doesn't work if it's not your true expression. Like in your case, and you're very prolific, the reason I think you're successful is because it is honest, right? You can feel you can feel that it's authentic to you and that you're having fun with it. And there's joy, there's pleasure in it, and you're experimenting, and you're not worried if some experiment goes wrong. It doesn't matter, right? You're just going to keep doing it. But it's almost like you're doing it to help people, certainly, and you're doing it to share your own ideas, and you're doing it for the joy of just doing it, which is as you said with Bashar, follow your highest excitement. Don't worry about the result, like no expectation. That's a hard thing for people to do. It's a hard thing for me to do, but it's the only way that it works. Like you just have to dissolve into the pleasure and the joy of the thing and do it for the thing. And then the fruits will take care of themselves.
Yeah. I know that the reason why I'm authentic is because my pride is above anything, which means it's above money, it's above fame. And with pride, I don't mean ego, actually. I mean that when I look in the mirror, I want to be proud of myself because I want my soul to be pure. And I know if my soul, because I know if my soul is pure, I'll be proud of myself.
I think the skill becomes, and it gets easier as you get older, to become more discerning about what's a true expression of my essence, and what's the neurotic impulse. What am I doing out of fear or in compensation? And sometimes, the only way to find out is to go into it. I remember not Ryan Reynolds. What's the other Ryan?
Ryan Gosling?
Gosling said, you have this impulse. He said, I have this impulse to go to Hollywood to be an actor. And I don't know if it's a premonition or it's a delusion. Like, I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm in a delusion or it's some intuitive sense that I can do it. But there's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
So it's like we always have to enter into the unknown, and then you get information, which is why I don't believe really in mistakes. It's like, it's just data. It's just information, that it's trial and error, and you learn as you go, but you have to have the confidence that you're eventually going to figure it out. And you can't, and this is what a lot of people do. They fail once or twice, and then they decide, I can't do it. It's not worth it. I'm never going to figure this out. And then they give up.
Mark Freeman talks about this. You have to walk the journey to understand the journey. But many people are beforehand, no, I have to figure out what's the perfect niche I'm going to use. I have to perfectly set up my cameras have to be what's the right thing. Oh no, I have to find the right decision. They try to create the map first thing in the head without even walking the terrain. And Mark Freeman has this beautiful analogy about life being a national park. And you walk up to the national park and there's like a security guard in front of the national park. And the national park has like 9 different paths. Have I told the story to you before? No? The national park has like 9 different paths. And it's resembling life. And you go up to the security guard and you're like, hey, so can you tell me what's the right path for me to walk? Because I don't want to walk the wrong path. Please tell me what's the right path so I don't make mistakes and I'll be successful right away. And the security guard's like, excuse me, sir, I'm just a security guard here. I actually never went to the park. If you want to know what path is right for you, you have to walk them. And you're like, no, I can't. I'm scared. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get rejected. What if I get rejected in the relationships? What if I choose the wrong business? I have to think about that. I'm going to stay out here thinking about that what's the right path to take? And the security is like, yeah, suit yourself. You can just chill out here, and you're kicking dust. And after a year, yeah, some people are going to die out there thinking about that, which is very sad. But after a year, you're like, okay, I'm going to go inside the park. And you go inside and you're like, oh, I don't know what path to take, but you take the path all the way to the right. And there's like a mountain on the path. And you're like, I don't really know how to mountain climb, but I guess I have to learn how to mountain climb. And you like climb the mountain and you're like, oh, I fall. You hurt yourself a bit, but then you get like the balance and you kind of like get the gist of it. And it takes you a long time to climb that mountain. After like 8 months, you're on top of the mountain. You're like, whoo, okay. So this was pretty cool, but I figured out I don't really like mountain climbing. So maybe that path is not good for me. So you go down the path, you see the second path, you see like a raptor, a lion, a tiger. You're like, that path might not be for me. So you go on the third path and there's another little mountain. And you're like, I actually learned how to mountain climb before, so I just want to see what's after it. So you climb the mountain, you see like there's a lake after it, like a river, and there's a boat, and you're like, okay, I might as well learn how to river ride. You jump on the boat, you like river riding, there's like villages around, you learn how to river. Oh, I like this, I really like this. Oh, I'm getting better at this. You walk to like villages and you learn how to trade, you meet your wife, you have to walk the path. The name of the story, and I added like a lot of those stories to it, but you can only learn life when you balance in the terrain. Like I got really good at making social media because I made thousands of videos, but I learned while making videos the most, not beforehand. So I think most people have the biggest problem of avoiding, because of the fear of rejection, because of the fear of being hurt, and trying to plan, getting the safety and control beforehand, looking at a map that they think is the map of the journey they want to go on or the skill that they want to do, but they cannot see the map because they didn't even start the journey. It's like a baby who says, I have to take the perfect step now or I will not start learning how to walk. No, the baby has to allow themselves to be a beginner, fall down, get up, find their balance. And that's why I always say, allow yourself to be a beginner and don't make this now about result. Make it about gaining skills and understand the terrain. But you can only figure it out while walking it. After the journey of social media, I realized, no, it's actually anything I do, I have to allow myself to be a beginner first and make it about the skill. But I only learn it through creating so many videos. I always say life is the best video game there ever is because there is no code, like there is no cheat. It seems like there is no way. There's not one way, and people always look for one way. Maybe there's an art of linking to life, linking to our channels, linking to the present moment, or with that person the dream state, or with that person surrender, or with that person acceptance. And then we get ideas. And some people probably already do it naturally. Like if I think of maybe 50 Cent, he built an empire. I'm sure he has like some intuition where he's like, oh yeah, I want to do this project. Maybe he cannot explain it where it's coming from. And maybe in his book, he's explaining that everything's like rational and everything is mindset. Sometimes people can't explain it, but yeah, who knows? I like what Kyle C says. I don't know, and I love that. And I said this on a lot of my podcasts. I think one of my biggest superpowers is my willingness to be wrong to find something that works better. And the people who have a lot of problems is that they are married to their ideologies. Like if you're married to the Bible, or you're married to the Quran, or you're married to this certain book, and your mind says, I have to do every single thing. Are you really being yourself, or are you living your life being a square or a round thing, pushing yourself through something instead of finding what resonates with you uniquely? I always say, make yourself your own book first and take what you resonate from the outside, from the tools, what your inner being resonates. But some people look for the control and safety in the books and put people on the pedestal. And this person, I remember people like following every single thing of Andrew Huberman. Like there was like the comment section, like every single thing, every study that Andrew Huberman says about health, people followed. Then it came out that one guest said something wrong. There was some misinformation about, I don't remember what it was, but it was like about milk or dairy or whatever it was. It was like some health thing. And in the comments, people said, I cannot believe this. I blindly followed everything and that was on Andrew Huberman's podcast. And I was like, what the fuck? Why do you have critical thinking? Why do you have your own resonance in your body? And people like to give off responsibility. It's like trust in themselves. That's why I teach my clients a lot of times. What means a lot of times? Always. Make yourself your own authority. But you can only make yourself your own authority if you're not identified with the brain, with the mind. Because if you're identified with the patterns, you will always be a slave to the patterns, to the trauma, to the emotions, to the thoughts. But if you practiced you have to have an open vessel. You have to have practiced for a series of time, mindfulness, meditation, spending time outside of your head, accepting the emotions, acting on your valued actions, building skills, building a practice, building something where you made like a project where you learned practically, not theoretically, how to trust yourself. And then make yourself your own authority, because you can trust yourself the most. Not this person that tells you this is the perfect way, exactly do it like I did. Yeah, that worked for him. Doesn't mean it works for you. Maybe you can take some tools from it, which you resonate with, but we have to explore it. We have to try it out. And I feel like a lot of people, because of the trauma from control and safety, this is actually spiritual. A lot of people get into spirituality, the law of attraction, those things, just changing themes from having one identity to chase control and safety to having a new identity to chase control and safety, because now they say, oh yeah, I only have to do this ritual of changing my thoughts and then I have the control and safety over my reality and I can just give it off. Instead of being like, oh no, I trust myself. I take what I resonate with from various places, areas, spaces of life, but I trust myself first, because the energy is in us. And that's why I loved like connecting to the present moment at the beginning, because when we connected to the present moment, we can kind of navigate of what's authentic to us, what's right, what feels good. And I love this guy. He wasn't Chris Williamson. Maybe he's an Indian guy. And he said something that comes playful to you, that you feel easy about, you will be like really good at. And that's your direction, but that's different to everyone. And that's why you cannot be like, oh, I have to do it exactly like that. What do you think about, I know I said a lot, but what did you resonate? What did you think about what I just said?
I think there is a code, but it's all encompassed in everything that you just said, which is surrender. Because you could, it's a frame, obviously, and surrender is a loaded word, but surrender to your own authority, surrender to like what's true for you. Like it's giving over control to something greater, giving over to your excitement. Like Bashar, it's like follow your highest excitement. Well, that's a surrender. I'm going to surrender to this thing that's excitement. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make any money off this. I don't know if I'm going to be successful at this. I don't know if this is going to work out. That's not your concern, right? Your mission
Which
here
is so
just
hard
to surrender,
for most people.
to surrender to your excitement and then see what happens. If you do that over and over and over again, I think it's almost guaranteed that you're going to have a successful life. Now, what does that look like? What does that mean? You have ideas, and everybody's got their own ideas in their head about what success means. But on some level, and that's why that book, The Surrender Experiment, it had a deep impact on me. But it's also in every ayahuasca ceremony that it did, and I did a lot of them. That was really the message, like the effect would come on. It takes you out of control. Something else has control over you, and your mind wants to fight it, to regain control, and your mind starts going to all kinds of places. And you realize the only way out is to give over. I have to surrender to this experience. I have to surrender to whatever this force is that's taking me over. And the moment you do surrender, like almost all of your anxiety goes away, and then you're catapulted into this like state of bliss And the same thing happens, whether you go on a vision quest or something, like you're out there alone and your mind starts freaking out because there's no distraction. There's nothing to do. You're just sitting there for 4 days with your own thoughts, and people can start to go a little crazy. And then there's a moment where you realize it's either I'm going to continue to suffer and go crazy, or I have to just let go to this experience. And then the moment you let go to the experience, like something cracks open, and then all of this good feeling comes through. This peace takes you over. And so I've had those experiences so many times that I have the evidence, through it, that I feel certain that that's true. Like that if I surrender, I'm gonna get what I need, and that's the path to fulfillment, success, and happiness. It unfortunately requires, or not unfortunately, but it requires, that we let go of the mind, and that's the scariest thing. Let go of the pattern. Let go of. I mean, the hero's journey. That's what it's about. This archetypal story, the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, which is you have to leave. You feel the call to adventure. You resist it at first, no, and then something happens that like you can't not go, and you have to leave the known world behind for the unknown. Like you have to go into the unknown. That's literally the definition of an adventure. And then you find a guide along the way who kind of, shows you some things that you didn't know, Yoda. And then you have to face the dragon, in the cave, which is really just your deepest fear. And you're kind of, you die and are reborn. And this is a cycle that I think we go through over and over and over again. I feel like as soon as I've completed one hero's journey, I start another. And so the skill, the practice, I think for people is to know that at some point you're going to have to let go of, if you want to grow, if you want to expand, which we all do, you have to let go of what's known, what feels safe, what you've been holding on to. And then you have to enter into this unknown world, unknown inside yourself, and tolerate it. And you're going to be afraid, and you have to let go of control and trust that if you just keep moving, like things are going to work out, like things are going to play out. New information is going to come. Somebody's going to come into your life. There's going to be some synchronicity. Like you have to trust that. And again, it's like when I made the decision to live my life that way, and I remember the exact moment I made the decision, I was 26 years old. Again, I don't do it perfectly. Sometimes I get scared. I resist and procrastinate and all of that. But at the end of the day, I follow my intuition, and it's always led me exactly where I need to go. And it's also like, somebody said to me at one point when I was in some resistance, they said, listen, God's plan for you. And they meant it as a metaphor. I take it as a metaphor, is much more expansive and interesting and exciting than whatever plan that you have for yourself. Like your plan for yourself is based on your mind, your limited thought. You're limited, and you have no idea how powerful you actually are and what you're actually capable of. So if you believe what your mind is telling you, you're never going to touch that. But if you let go and surrender to something and trust the intelligence that's there, like you are going to touch that in some way. That's how I think about it. That's how I try to live. And that's what I teach.
If you could tell people a process or a step-by-step, how you would be able to describe it the best from your experience, how to surrender, what would that look like?
Well, the first thing I would say is don't resist the resistance. And what does that mean? It means you're always going to face resistance. There's always going to be some part of you that's afraid, that's going to say, no, this is crazy. Don't do that. You're going to get hurt. You're going to be abandoned. People are going to make fun of you. That's the resistance. And what I mean when I say don't resist it is I don't think you should overcome it, like try to like push it away, you know, make it like I'm going to override it. I think you actually have to be with it. Like you just have to create some separation between you and those thoughts and be with those thoughts, because those thoughts are, as we talked about earlier, they're your scared child. And the scared child is coming along for the ride, whether you like it or not. And so if you push that child away, right, or try to ignore it, it's eventually going to keep coming up, right? But if you give it its due, to say, I hear you, I understand why you're feeling afraid. You know, it makes sense to me that based on your experiences that you would not want to risk this. I understand that. When you give it that understanding, it actually creates the space for the risk to happen, right? So, I mean, you know, if you say I want to do this thing, but I'm scared, and I say, man, you got to fucking do it anyway. Just do it fucking anyway. Like man up and just do it. That can work. But if I say to you, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Generally, the reaction to that is like, no, I'm going to fucking do it.
As soon as it's their idea, right? As soon as it's their idea.
Give them permission, right? Like it's okay. Like it's okay
to say no, because you give them a choice.
Give them the choice. And so that's important that we give, we have to give that to ourselves. Like we have to give our fear its due, right? Like the John Wayne quote, which is, you know, you're afraid to ride into battle, but you ride it anyway. He's not, it's John Wayne, you know, he's not saying I'm not ever afraid. He's saying I'm always afraid. He's acknowledging it, but I do it anyway. And so I think that's important because it softens us and it actually brings us more into presence and more into truth. So one of the things that I practiced when I was, you know, auditioning, casting director would come out, say, okay, Dave, we're ready for you. How you feeling? And I would always, whatever I was feeling, I would say what was true for me. You know, because of course you're going to say, I feel great, super excited to be here, you know. But sometimes I would say, I'm feeling kind of nervous. And why am I saying that? Because I'm trying to get myself present. And if I don't say what's true for me, I'm not present.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to go in there and actually be present. So I have to just continue to say what's true in my experience. And the moment I name that I'm nervous, I'm much less nervous. And in fact, when I said it the first time, the whole group of actors, they all burst out laughing. Because, of course, they're all nervous, too.
Yeah, that's the recognition, right? That's also humor and comedy. Like when you say something true, people laugh out.
Exactly. And it gave them relief. And it's like, yeah, of course we're fucking nervous. We're about to go into this screen test in front of the president of Warner Brothers, you know? And so it's just naming what's true for you in every moment without being attached to it. And the truth is, if you're able to recognize and name it, you're not attached to it, right? You don't want to push things out of your psyche. And it's a little bit tricky, right? Like I had this, you know, I don't want to say too much about, you know, clients and stuff, but, you know, people are talking about their mother, right? And they have an issue with their mother. And it's like, they're always like, you know, but I love my mother. But, you know, there's this and there's that, but I love my mother. And I'm like, yeah, no, of course you love your mother. And there must be a part of you that hates your mother. And of course, we all hate our mother. Like, that's a part of us. It doesn't mean that we don't also love our mother. But what I'm trying to give the person permission to do is just feel that part of you that hates her and give yourself permission to feel that hatred. Don't make it bad or wrong. It's just a feeling. It's
Yeah, you make
just
it
a
part of the
feeling.
work.
Yeah, don't identify with it. It's just a feeling. And actually, if you feel into it and you give yourself permission to know what it is, you'll see that there's actually something deeper underneath, right? There's maybe you hate her because you felt hurt by her in some way, and you don't really want to feel that pain, or you were disappointed with something and you don't really want to face it, or you needed something from her that you didn't get, and you feel this angst about that or this despair. And so, the defense is the hatred, but we can't skip, and so we talked about these people, the spiritual bypass people. That's what they tend to do, is just, no, I'm going to love everything and everyone all the time. I'm just like, no, you're not. You're not Jesus.
That's just platitudes.
Yeah. And you have a shadow, and sometimes you're, judgmental, and you're cynical, and you're arrogant, and you're selfish, and you feel cruelty, and you want to hurt people, not maybe physically, but you want to say something that's hurtful, which we've all done.
And you can accept it. You don't have to act on it.
You don't have to act on it. You have to accept. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for most people to do when I'm working with them, is to really accept the shadow, right? That dark part of us. And it's only when we accept it and are humble to it that we can transform it. But the key is not to identify it, understand that the shadow is just a defense. It's just
to see it as a programming, as patterns that when we accept them and surrender to it, they can transform. It's so crazy because there's more people with OCD than society actually knows about. And there's many people with intrusive thoughts that are so crazy. So crazy that I don't want to even name them on the podcast, but the problem is that people make these thoughts about them instead of just making them as thoughts that have actually nothing to do with them. They're just programming. But because they make them about them, they judge themselves, oh, I must be a bad person. And then they do controlling behaviors around it, which just feeds back those thoughts. And it's exactly the same. It's the acceptance of that. I love that you talked about that. So just to bring it together, your process of surrender. I loved the step number 1, which is accept the resistance. I like to say, even if you feel like you can't surrender, accept that you can't.
That's right.
Have an acceptance. Don't resist that you feel like you can't surrender, which is already a step closer.
That's right. Now you're present with what you actually feel.
Surrender with what is. Like you, when you walked into the room, I don't have to try to be confident. I'm just going to surrender to being nervous, which I love because you were already so conscious back in the day in your acting career, which I believe is part of why you became so successful. Then, so I would say your first step was the not resisting the resistance.
Yeah, don't resist the resistance. Be aware of your shadow and all of your thoughts, and don't identify with them. Don't resist them. Just be with them. It's just a data point. It's just information. It's an expression of your fear ultimately, and to know that. And of course, you're afraid. We're all afraid all the time. Whenever we want to expand or do something new or step into the unknown or start a new relationship or get married, it's fucking scary for everybody. Okay. And so, it's okay to be afraid. Just acknowledge it and be with it. And if you need support, ask for it, all of that, get good at all of that. And then I guess, the next step is what we've been talking about, is you have to be willing to follow your excitement. Now, people say passion, but I don't think that's the right word. I think Bashar's got it right. You have to follow what excites you. And you can't try to make sense of it. Like, why am I excited by this thing, but not this thing? I don't know. I can tell you, I can create a story about it, and I can give you reasons, But the truth is, that's just what excites me. That's it. That's the end of the conversation, right? And so just to give yourself permission to know what attracts you, know what draws you, know what lights you up. And that's not an easy thing for some people because maybe they got shamed in that place. Maybe when they were a kid, they had all this excitement and their parents said, "What are you doing? Who cares about that? Don't do that, do this." And so they learned that, it wasn't okay, or there was something wrong with their excitement. So sometimes people have to overcome issues around that. But if you can follow that excitement and exactly like put no demand on the situation, have no expectation, right? Then I think from that place, and then trust your intuition. I think that takes practice, to learn what your intuition is. And I think there's ways you can make contact with it, whether it's journaling or meditation or, reflection, or a series of questions. I agree with you. Questions are the best way to get to the truth. That's what I do, with my clients. It's what I do with myself. I ask myself a series of questions to try to, if I'm confused or I'm not sure what to do. And it always helps me get to the truth. The truth is always there. You're never really lost. You're never really confused. You're just afraid to let yourself know what's true for you, because as soon as you let yourself know what's true for you, you're going to have to do something that scares you. And so again, you want to be aware of that. Don't get caught in the delusion, right? It's always within you. And all the work is quieting yourself enough to hear the whisper,
to hear your intuition,
of your soul.
to hear your excitements.
And then you have to take that step. There's no other way to do it. You got to take that step in the unknown, and then you're going to see what happens. And it's just a series of moments over and over and over and over and over again. And it's okay to have a plan. I'm not, saying don't structure your life. Don't have some system that works for you. But you also have to be like day to day, like moment to moment, like in tune with yourself, and then follow, just like a dance, just like, where does it want to go?
Yeah.
Not where do I want to take it? Like, where does it want to go? Where does this force inside me, where does it want to lead me? And to follow it. And I think that's really all you have to do. I think you have to be disciplined about it. I think that doing that, committing to that, actually takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
And then you
because your patterns want to suck you in.
That's right. You have to mitigate against your patterns. And if you don't have a practice to do that, your patterns are ultimately going to win. So you have to have practices in your life, whatever it is. There's a lot of different kinds of practices, and people have to find their own that work for them, but something that keeps you connected to the deeper part of yourself: meditation, prayer, walking, journaling, something. And then just to continue to follow that. And then I guess the other thing would be, the ultimate thing is, to take responsibility for everything, to understand that you are always creating your life. Your choices, your decisions, your thoughts are literally making manifest your reality. And so the things that are happening in your life that you don't like, you're responsible for. You've created it. Like, well, I'm dating this person and they're not a good person. Well, why did you choose to date them? Like, some part of you was drawn to them, and you want to figure out why. What part of me was drawn to them? You have to bring it back to yourself. Otherwise, you're essentially a slave to the external world. And that's not an easy thing to do as well, because we do make mistakes, and it's hard to take responsibility for them sometimes. It's much easier to blame other people or blame the circumstances. But we have to own our choices, and that is the path to freedom and salvation. And it's not an easy one, because we're forced to look at ourselves in ways that can be uncomfortable, right? We have to face ourselves, our shadow. We have to look at the places where we were unconscious. We have to admit that we were acting out in some way. But we have to be honest with ourselves there, and be humble, and then be forgiving.
Yeah.
which is, the other, I mean, I don't have a 5-point system here, but I'm just kind of riffing. It's very important that we forgive ourselves. I heard M. Scott Peck. He's got a great book about the shadow called The People of the Lie. And I read the book a while ago, but one of my clients was reading it and sent me this quote, and I'd forgotten about it, but it's great. And it says, God always forgives you for everything. So if you refuse to forgive yourself, you are putting yourself above God. And I thought that was so powerful, because most of us, if we're honest, there's things that we've done that we refuse to forgive ourselves for. We stay attached to the shame. And that's its own safety mechanism. And we don't need to go down the rabbit hole exactly why, but that's what it is. And it keeps us small, right? Shame keeps us small. And if we're small, we're safe. And so forgiving ourselves is an act of expansion. It's an act of higher self. We're setting ourselves free. And it's very important that we take responsibility, but also forgive ourselves. That's the most important thing for me in my relationship, because I make mistakes in my relationship, right? As does my wife. We both get into it and stuff happens, right? And I have to know in that moment that it's not me, right? It's my defense. It's gotten activated, and maybe I said the wrong thing, or maybe I was withdrawing my love to punish her, or I was being arrogant or selfish, something. And, when I realize what I'm doing, I could shame myself, right? I could make myself bad or wrong, but that's really a kind of narcissism. Like, I'm making it about me. And what I need to do is make amends. I need to acknowledge it to her. Hey, I did this. I acted this way. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then whether she forgives me or not, if I've acknowledged it honestly within myself, I then need to forgive myself for it, because it's like to not identify with it, not make myself bad. Again, I can feel regret, remorse, right? I should take actions to try to ensure that doesn't happen again. I don't want to let myself off the hook for it, but I have to, at the core, I have to forgive myself. Like, I have to remind myself of my inherent goodness. I can't identify with the shadow part of me. And the only way to do that is to keep forgiving. And then what happens, just one more thing, is when you're willing to forgive yourself, it's easy to forgive other people, because you see it for what it is. If you can see that your own shit is just your shit, it's not you, and you can forgive yourself for it, when somebody else is coming at you with their fucking nonsense, you can actually see it for what it is. And then you don't have to take it on. You don't have to get reactive. It doesn't mean you can't have boundaries. It doesn't mean you should take it, but you don't have to demonize them. You don't have to make them bad and wrong. You don't have to judge them. You can kind of hold it all and see what's happening for what it actually is, that this person is hurt or they're scared for whatever reason, and they're acting out and it's coming at you. That's all that's happening. And you can, again, have your boundary, but simultaneously be in forgiveness. And then if you do, you know what happens? They drop it. They're pulled into presence.
Yeah. Bashar says, as soon as you feel guilty for something, you don't have to feel guilty anymore, because the mere fact that you feel guilty means that you are a good person.
Right. That's a good one.
In addition, when you talked about excitement in the process of surrender earlier, following your excitement, Bashar talks about excitement is the point, because it's about the vibration you go into, and it's not necessarily that the path has to make sense. It's the vibration that you're raising along the way. And maybe your path is going swirling, but that swirling, exciting path is actually faster than a direct path. with resistance, because the excitement is supercharging that path. So that's why it's with no insistence on the outcome.
Well, and when you're doing things that are exciting, that light you up, it's not work, and there's no resistance, and there's no fear. Like, you do it to do it,
And people can feel it.
then people can feel it.
And it's healing them as well. I think it's a signal. It's like a signal when you see someone on screen on TikTok or Instagram, even if it's something that you're not interested in, if they follow their excitement, it lights something in you up. It's like a light that, and I think this is an example Bashar gives too, with different lights that are lighting up. Yeah, I remember hearing it. It's like they lighting up and you feel a resonance. Something in you needs to light up as well. It's lighting up, and there you have more clarity. That's why people who follow the excitement with no insistence on the outcome, and people who are in the present moment, are so powerful, because they're not only achieving success for themselves, they're also lighting up the world around them. You're bringing positivity around them, around you, just by being you.
That's right. Well, the example that I always use, I'm a big hockey fan. Not so much soccer, but it's impossible to ignore Messi. He's, his highlights would come up and I'd watch. I'm like, wow. Yeah. And so I started to, pay attention to him. And what I saw, greatest soccer player of all time. I guess that's debatable, but there's a lot of great soccer players, but he's considered one of the best. And when you watch him play, it looks like a little boy playing soccer. I mean, it's just pure joy. It's pure fun. I mean, obviously he's skilled and he's passionate, he's competitive, but all you see is joy. And I think that's what separates him from everybody else. I don't know that maybe Maradona had some of that too, but there's something about that he just plays with so much joy that you feel like he would be doing this if there was nobody in the stands and he wasn't getting paid.
A lot of the Brazilian players have that too.
Yeah.
When they're playful with it.
That's the way to be in life. I mean, that's, actors, right? What are they that you're playing, right? Back in the day when you go to Broadway and they'd have the list of the cast was called The Players.
Yeah.
And I was always struck by that. Yeah, you're playing. And when I was an actor,
playing.
I always had to remind myself. I did a sitcom once and I could be funny, but there was a moment where I was getting frustrated because I couldn't get the scene right or something. And then my girlfriend at the time was like, you're doing a comedy. Like you
can't be serious in a comedy.
You're too serious and you're putting too much pressure on yourself. And I really, it struck me. And then I something switched where I was like, okay, no. I have to, it's actually my job to have fun. And so I just showed up like, I'm here to have a good time. I'm just here to play. And my performance got way better after that.
Bashar says enlightenment is just about lightening up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is that playful thing. Just because you the expert with helping men and you really specialize on that, I want to know, what do you see for men? How can we help men in society?
Well, I mean, part of the problem is that you have a lot of men that grew up without really a strong male role model. So meaning, and I see this all the time, that they had a dominant mother, maybe controlling, maybe devouring, and an absent father, physically or emotionally absent. I mean, I hear it all the time. Like they're telling me about their mom and this happened and this happened. I'm like, where's your dad? He was checked out. He didn't want to deal with it. And so what happens is that very much distorts your relationship with women. And that's an epidemic, right? Add to that the messages that men have been receiving the last, I would say 20 years. It's, we don't need men. I mean, that's a message that people are saying, it's the end of men. Somebody wrote a book called that, and blaming all the problems of the world on men as though, women don't have any issues and they're perfectly evolved. And, men are the only ones that have to do their work. All of that is insane. And and sad, really, because it's not making women happy. But they've gotten away, unfortunately, because of the force of feminism, with not really having to take responsibility for their side of it. And I understand all that. Like, I understand why it happened, and the pendulum had to swing. And these are just things that I think, cultures have to go through. But I think right now, what should men do? They should not allow themselves to be defined by women. That's the main thing. So what does that look like? It looks like getting your shit together and get with other men. That's the main thing. Like, you have to find community, and you have to find a community that's working towards something that's positive, right? So it's like, go to fucking CrossFit or something, but find some place where you can go with other like-minded people that are striving to get better physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I think, like, the message that Tate puts out, I think that's exactly right. Right. And people may not like the way he says it, or like some of the other things that he says. That's fine. But really what he's saying is the same thing that Jordan Peterson is saying. It's the same thing that everybody is saying. Like, you have to get your shit together. Otherwise, you're not going to be an attractive partner to women. But you shouldn't be doing it to become an attractive partner to women. You should be doing it for yourself, just to make yourself as strong as you can, because that's what feels good. And that's going to give you confidence. And so you're not going to feel confident as a man unless you do hard things. So you have to challenge yourself. And that looks different for every guy, because men are different and they have different interests and different things that are going to challenge them. It's not always going to be some physical challenge for every guy, right? It's not for everyone to get into the boxing ring. But you have to find something that challenges you, because that's the only way to discover who you really are. You only discover yourself through challenge. You have to go to the edges and feel yourself there. And when you go through that, you feel proud. And that feeling of pride goes a long way, and you start to feel more secure. You start to feel more stable. You're going to take more actions that are going to build your strength. That's really the most important thing I think men can do. Don't succumb to cynicism, right? Don't succumb to despair. Don't succumb to resentment. Again, it's hard, right? Because of, all the images that are out there. And so I understand the feelings of resentment. I mean, I feel that sometimes. I'm like, what the fuck? Not towards my wife, but sometimes towards I'm just like, can you lay off? Like, lay off the fucking guys. It's too much. Like,
another woman shaming men on the internet, and it goes viral and women jump on it.
Exactly. It's horrible. But the problem is, as I said earlier, like, so many men, because if they had a devouring or controlling mother, or mother was like sort of, or they had to, because their dad wasn't around, that they had to sacrifice their own needs for the sake of the woman, that becomes a pattern. They learn that they have to take care of the woman, that they somehow have to sacrifice themselves in order to take care of her needs. And that's what makes them good. And that's the kind of the nice guy thing that so many guys have, right?
That gets cheated on and manipulated and used for his money.
Right. Those are all essentially mama's boys in some way. And so you have to recognize that pattern in yourself if you have it. And I had it. I mean, I made a living in Hollywood playing nice guy characters, like kind of playing the perfect nice guy. And I did all these Hallmark movies, and I hated it because it felt gross. It didn't feel real, but it was, I was fulfilling some female fantasy, and it was a disaster in my relationships. It's the biggest single reason why my relationships weren't successful. I didn't really know how to show up as a man. And the thing that I would say, and it's a thing that I continue to work on, is you can never betray yourself for a woman. Don't give yourself away for her. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean don't be kind. It doesn't mean don't be accommodating. It doesn't mean don't do things for her that are romantic and that she's going to like. But what it does mean is you have to put your mission first ahead of her. And if there's ever a moment where she wants to do something or she's saying something and it doesn't feel right for you, right? It doesn't feel true for you. Or she's asking you to do something and you don't want to do it. Or you want to do something and she doesn't want to do it and you defer to that. That sense of betrayal is devastating. One, you've shown yourself that you don't really believe in yourself, that you're going to give yourself away to her, right? And that's just not a dynamic you want to be in. It doesn't demonstrate strength. Never mind to her, to your own self. Okay. Yeah. And so you're going to begin to lose confidence. The other part of it is they're not going to trust you, because a woman wants to be with a man who's able to say no to her.
Yeah. That's like a test as well, like an unconscious test.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean be a dick, right?
And they actually leave you for getting what they want or what they ask for.
That's right. That's right. And very often they're testing you. And you have to learn to say no. Like, that's part of your job in the relationship as the masculine, which is the leader, is you have to be willing to guide the relationship and say no when necessary. And that's not an easy thing to do. And that requires tolerating her disappointment, which a lot of men cannot. Like, my wife sometimes is disappointed with me. She wants to do this thing and I'm like, no. And she's disappointed. But if I'm coming from a good place, if I'm making a decision that she, ultimately feels like is the right decision, it actually makes her trust me more. And then she's going to surrender to me more. Now, she may not always see that in the moment. She may have feelings of disappointment and may like pout about it, or try to convince me otherwise. And that's fine. But it's really important that, you hold the line there. And that's a skill that you can learn. It takes time. You have to first become aware of the very, very subtle places that you betray yourself or you give yourself away, because it happens so quick. It's a pattern. And suddenly you're in this thing, and you have to catch it. And almost every time I betray myself for my wife, it always leads to a fight. Every time. Like, not right away, but like 3 days later, 5 days later, 2 weeks later, we end up fighting about something totally different. And then once we're in the fight and this, and then all of a sudden the memory of this moment where comes into my head. I'm like, oh, that's what it's about. Fuck. And then I realize
she started the fight later on.
Yeah. Right. But I realized, like, I actually started the fight the moment I betrayed myself.
Mm.
And so I have to take responsibility for that. And it's a really tricky thing, and almost everybody I know is working on this, because, like, we all had to betray ourselves as children. We had no choice, right? Like, we have to betray ourselves in some way to stay in connection and in favor with our caregivers, because that's our primary survival strategy. So we learn, it's a learned behavior. And particularly, I was saying earlier, with this pattern with men and their mothers, if you're betraying your own needs for the sake of your mother, you're taking care of your mother, or you're trying to be good for her so that you're going to get her love, you're going to take that strategy and going to apply it to your dating life with women in your relationships. And so you have to become very, very aware of that pattern and notice when you do it, and you have to make a different choice. And you can learn to do it. It's a skill, but it takes time and it takes awareness.
With men, how do you help? Because I think you do such a great thing. I said this in the beginning of the podcast. You're good-hearted. You care about doing a good job. You care about helping people. You have a good heart. You have integrity. How do you help men in your groups to get out of that mother wound, if I describe that correctly, to get out of that mother wound and become this masculine person? And I think part of it is being in a man's group with other men. But how do you help them, and how do you practice that? And at the end, you can share, please, where do they go? But Take your time with explaining.
They have to confront their shadow, because in the place where they're trying to be good, they're trying to be the nice guy for women. Underneath that is a lot of rage. That's what they're kind of hiding, and resentment, which, stems from the relationship with the mother. So they have to confront that. They have to confront there's a part of them that wants to just annihilate women, that wants to control them, that wants to win, that wants to get what they want, that wants to use them. Right? They have to feel that part of them and come to terms with it, and then feel the pain that's underneath it, that's connected to what happened to them.
How do they feel that? Like, how do they get into the place?
Well, I mean, the way I work with people is, I'll get them, up in front of the room and, have them hit and express like their rage, like, fuck you. And then let all the dark thoughts and judgments and weird sexual things. Like, I mean, we're dark. Humans are fucking.
That's so vulnerable, isn't it?
It's super vulnerable. And I remember when I went there, it was, terrifying. I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. I was shocked at what was actually inside me, and the intensity of the rage and the unconscious desire to like punish and control. I had no idea that it was there. And when it came out of me, it took me right to the pain and the longing that was underneath. And I wouldn't have known all that had I not gone there. So I don't know that it's a place you can get to exactly through meditation, maybe if you do enough meditation, but doing something physical like that, like some kind of somatic process, I think is the best way. You have to get in touch with your aggression. You have to get in touch with your rage. You have to get in touch with the monster that lives inside you, because that's the only way you're going to be able to tame it, right?
But it has to be expressed first before the somatic experience, where verbally, right, with what's bothering the person.
That is the somatic experience, to express it. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about somatic experience, like feel your body and feel what's going on. I'm talking about like expressing your emotions and feelings directly, with the intensity that is there, right? Like to really let it move through your body, like that part of you that could kill, that wants to kill.
Like, why this fucking bitch treats me so badly.
Yeah, you have to go there. And by the way, women need to go there too. I work with all kinds of women, and they get all kinds of rage against men, and they want to fucking kill men. Women kill men, quote unquote, kill in different ways, through emasculation and humiliation, because they can't physically kill them. Shaming, that's how they kill men, and men do it more in a physical way because they're bigger and stronger. But you have to get in touch with the energy and understand that it lives inside you, and that's probably playing out in your relationship, obviously in a subverted way, right? In an indirect way. But you want to know that you have that shadow inside you, that kind of hatred. Otherwise, it's going to rear its ugly head in high stress situations in your dynamic.
And then you accept it when it comes up. Is that what you surrender to it? You accept it. You let it flow through you. Is that the work, the practice?
And because what it brings you into presence, and every time this happens, if you really go there, the whole room will stand up. Like they literally will spontaneously stand up, like kind of in awe and support of it, because it's actually something sacred about letting that darkness come through. And that reaction from the group shifts something in your consciousness, because of course you feel a lot of shame about expressing this part of myself. Like, I'm bad that I have this in me, and if people see it, they're going to reject me, or I'm going to be shunned.
It creates a freedom.
It creates this freedom, because then and then what it does, it creates some separation between you and the feeling, and you realize this is not who you are. Like you cease to be identified with it. You're unconsciously identified with it when it's repressed, but once it's expressed, you're no longer identified with it. You see it for what it is, and it's a protection against pain. And so, that's, and then you can get to the more purity of the longing, right? So that's like step one. And then you can start to learn to have your boundaries, right? And so if you were a guy that, a little boy, and you couldn't stand up to your mother, or you got upset with your mother, or you threw a little protest and she shamed you for it. Well, you probably in your relationships, you're not going to be assertive with your woman, because you feel like you're going to get shamed for it. And so you have to learn to get over that And I mean, no woman wants a man that can't stand up to her.
Yeah.
Can't call her on her bullshit and can't say like, that's enough.
Yeah.
Like they need that, just like we need it from them sometimes. Sometimes
for their own for safety, right? You're able also to stand up to other men, to society, to protect the household, to protect the children.
And you have to do it in a loving way and all of that. You know, you can't be cruel with it. You can't be dominating or tyrannical. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
But there is a way to do it, you know, that is actually kind.
It's a different energy.
It's a different energy.
Instead of, oh, I want to hurt you, it's this is how it is. This is how we do it. I do this to protect. Done.
Yeah. And it's very powerful. And it's not a thing that has been cultivated in modern men. In fact, of course, it's been shamed, and I understand why. And so I've had to do a lot of work to find this place inside me, and I've realized that it's actually a really good part of me. You know, my assertiveness, my aggression is good when used prudently and with discernment. But it takes a long time to know ourselves there if that part of us has been suppressed or shamed for a lifetime. So, you know, that's what I do in my workshops. I try to like invite that in and get to deeper places and then come into the reality of what's like, what do you actually want? Like if you no longer define yourself by a woman's approval, if you let go of that, it creates space for the true want to come through. And you want to find out what that is, because that's where all your power lies. And the truth is, that's exactly what women want. They don't want a man who's kissing their ass all the time. They definitely want a romantic man who's, you know, I love you, baby, and, you know, hugs them and tells them they're beautiful, of course. But they want a man who's powerful, who's committed to their mission, who doesn't take anybody's bullshit, including their own, who can stand up for themselves, who's able to lead, who knows where they're going, and is willing to go there. That's what they want.
That is so powerful. That's so powerful because you take men from their fear and they're expressing the deepest emotions and thoughts that are kind of suppressed, that they are not allowed to say. And then they can see that's not them. You help them differentiate that because they acted from that, because they were identified with that. Then you separate that for them. You allow them to feel that. Then, and from there, you ask them, hey, how do you want to live your life now? You don't have to live your life from that. And new direction from a place of values or a deeper place of presence. This is powerful.
Yeah, it's really powerful work. That's why I dedicated my life to it, because I'd been in therapy for a number of years and got a lot of value from it. But it wasn't until I found core energetics, it's what I'm describing, because the way that it's set up, the structure of it, and the tools that it uses, it was, you can go there. Like, it's not easy to go there. And I was like, oh, I can go there with this. There's permission. And actually, like, I can go anywhere. Like, whatever's inside me, there is a container for this to come out. And it was just so terrifying, but also incredibly liberating to have the freedom. And it was a physical thing. It wasn't, you know, just mental. It was like I was letting the animal of that exists in my body, like, express itself in whatever way that it needed to, without any judgment. And that, just owning that part of me, knowing myself there, like giving myself permission, it's so empowering. It makes
you show the little child that it can take up space. Right?
Yeah. And then you have to develop a container for it, you know, and all of that. But like I've said, it makes you almost fearless, because you're not like, what are we really afraid of? Mostly what we're afraid of is our own feelings, right? I'm not afraid to go up to that woman and ask her out. I'm afraid of the feeling of rejection if she says no, and the meaning that my mind will attach to that. Like, I'm not enough, women aren't into me. So what I'm trying to help people with is, like, if you can feel everything inside you and you're not afraid to feel it, whatever it is, your rage, your pain, your fear, if you can, yeah, there it is, then you're so much more powerful in the world, because then you're not really afraid of anything, because it's like, I can handle this. Because, I remember as an actor, I was like, I want this fucking part so bad. And my friend was like, oh, you're going to let yourself get that excited about it? What if you don't get it? You'll feel disappointed. And I was like, so I feel disappointed. What the fuck? Then I'll be disappointed. But I'm not going to, like, feel how much I want this because of fear of disappointment.
Yeah.
It seemed ridiculous to me. So it's just that. But I also, of course, can relate to that, maybe not in that genre, but in some other area. But so that's really what we're doing, and uncovering the deep feelings and doing it in a group of men. And of course you see yourself and reflected in the other man. And then you see that it's okay. I mean, ultimately, what is that process? It's a liberation from shame.
Yeah.
And if you can't be shamed, you can't be controlled.
Powerful. If you cannot be shamed, you cannot be controlled. That's true.
Yeah.
And that's how they're trying to control men, with shame.
That's exactly it.
Where can they come to your workshops? Where can they find you, David?
So the best thing to do is go to my website, davidsutcliffe.com. Everything is there. You can see what I'm up to. You can sign up for my mailing list. You can follow me on Instagram. I always got stuff going on. I'm launching a new thing soon-ish. I don't know exactly when it's going to be, but in the next 6 weeks, a big program for men, and live workshops. I don't have a live workshop until next October. I probably, but I always got stuff going on. I'm doing an emotional mastery course right now for men. I'm in the middle of that. But this new program that I'm launching in 6 weeks is going to be my signature program, and I'm putting a lot of time and energy into that. And I hope I get a lot of men on board, because I'm gonna teach them everything I know.
I love that. I want to say that I have a few people where I'm like, I know they're good-hearted, I know they have good intentions, and they're really into their practice because they also practice themselves. Only if you practice yourself, if you're your own coach first and you want to improve yourself, you become a great coach for others. And I want to say that I totally, for anybody who's interested, any man out there who are interested in expressing themselves fully, check out David, go to David's workshops and check out his program, because there's just a few people like Mark Freeman, Abram Hicks, Michael Singer, Eckhart Tolle, where I'm like totally backing up. These are people who have good intentions, and that's rare out there. So really check out David, his work. If you resonate with him as a person and what he shared today, go to his workshops. And yeah, you get to express yourself, and he's going to take care of you.
Thank you, Star. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You are an inspiration. Keep doing what you're doing. I know you're helping a lot of people. I love watching your stuff. I learn a lot from you, the way you frame things and your perspective. It's so great. So keep going, man. And we'll have to do this again sometime soon.
Anytime when we surrender. This was a beautiful podcast. Thank you so much.